You all set?
I'm ready.
Okay. Anything we can't talk about or that you're uncomfortable talking about? Or I mean, I'm not going
Nope. I'm good with
dating
anything.
history or any of that. No.
Let's say keep the dating history out.
No. We're not doing that. Welcome to Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, joined today by one of our newest reporters, Madelyn Haynes. Welcome, Madelyn.
Thank you, Jeff.
We got you, I thought, well, maybe I'll get Madelyn here in a couple of weeks. You were out on breaking news, and I saw you on TV, and I thought, well, I'll send her an email. I won't hear back. And you responded between the newscasts, so you're motivated to be on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Was that your first breaking news experience?
It was. This was my very first breaking news specifically. I've done a few live shots, but today was one of the ones where I got a phone call and it was like, go here right now. So I headed that way, right on the scene.
What was that like for you?
It was very exciting. It was thrilling. Obviously, the story was a little bit harder to do.
Right.
But, I mean, just being able to be out there and speaking with officers and everything and just being the first one to be able to tell the story of what's happening out there.
Yeah, and it's very real. I mean, obviously it's real, but we all watch a lot of TV, where it's kind of dramatized a little bit, but you're there, it's hot, there's people bugging you, and you got to find a police officer or the information officer. So was your heart pounding? I mean, since this was the first time out, how did expectations versus what really happened? How would you weigh it out?
Absolutely. I mean, my heart was pounding. I think my hands are still shaking from it a little bit. I was just a little nervous. It's that reporter thrill that you have. You're the first one on the story. You're trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
And so my heart was like beating out of my chest.
And I believe it was a shooting, wasn't it?
Yes.
So not the greatest breaking news to go out on, but unfortunately that's part of the gig. We'll come back around to reporting in a minute. So just a little more about you. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Evansville. I attended Castle High School where I was involved in theater, show choir, all of those. And then after graduating Castle, I went to IU where I majored in journalism and criminal justice.
Okay.
And now I'm back at home.
Wow. So you were a night sensation then. Show choir. Did you do Singing Hoosiers when you were at IU too?
I did not. No,
Oh,
I kind of
okay.
when I got to IU, I joined sorority life, so that kind of took up most of my time there.
Right. So what pointed you toward this field? You said criminal justice is one of your majors, minors up at IU. So how did you meld the two then to do television and media?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went to IU, I wanted to do pre-law. I kind of always had in my heart that I wanted to be a lawyer. And then when I got to IU, I was going through all the classes. I still had such a huge passion for it, but I kind of felt like there was something missing. And so just on a whim, I joined the Indiana Daily Student. A family friend of mine told me I should join it and that they think that I would be a really good fit for it. So I joined the Indiana Daily Student, which is
daily newspaper, right, at IU,
daily
or
newspaper.
the newspaper at IU.
And I mean, I just absolutely fell in love with it. My first story was actually about George Telehero, which is one of IU's football players back in the 60s, one of the legends. And I mean, I just fell in love with just being able to talk to the community and tell their story. So then eventually I took a broadcast class, and my professor there, Ann Ryder, she really just had such a passion for it, and I was so inspired, and I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. That's what's been missing all these years.
Yeah, and a veteran reporter from Indianapolis for many years. So, and I think she retired actually as a lecturer, right? So you were lucky to get in on the tail end. So what kind of preparation did you do then at IU? So when you're in the media school, they ship you out with a camera and say find a story, or how does that work?
Honestly, pretty much. I mean, the Indiana Daily Student, they had it very set up very well. They had a story idea for us. We had our own beats. But when I started doing the broadcast class, I was a part of IU Newsnet. And so that one, you came into class with a pitch and you had to find your own story. You had to show up every day, ready to go, and they'd send you on your way with a camera. We got taught how to use the camera a little bit though, and we had pretty nice cameras there. So that was nice.
Now, were you at the Daily Student when the controversy erupted? I think they pulled, I'm trying to remember it all now, and you could probably tell it since you lived it, but essentially they ceased a print publication, right, and went to all online. But the timing was a little cloudy because I think you fill in the details, unless you don't want to. I mean, we don't need to re-prosecute that. But it's interesting because there was the whole free speech argument. But then there's the economics argument. Why are we printing a paper when everybody reads online anyway? So there was kind of, cover for both sides, I guess, on that story. So how'd you see it?
So definitely the story is a little bit hard. So it was right around our homecoming, and they were deciding what they were going to do for our homecoming edition. And well, IU, they had some things in mind that they wanted to see on the newspaper. But at the time, there was something happened with our president, Pamela Whitten, and she had just gotten an increase in her salary. And so we had a story that we were going to publish on it, and they kind of saw that and were like, all right, nope, it needs to be homecoming edition only.
And they being the university.
Yep,
the powers that be, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Yep. And so then, some things happened with administration, everything, a lot of back and forth, and they eventually fired one of our news directors. And so that was probably one of the hardest days in my university career. I mean, we're all just young journalists trying to make a living. We're all passionate about it. And just seeing him get fired and seeing the administration want to pull something away like this. Luckily, the roles did get reversed, and that the student newspaper is now backing up and thriving, and there's not really worry too much of a loss of funding. We'll see in the future, but
it was kind of a lesson, I guess, in the, holding truth to power, and power doesn't always like it. And especially in the case of a university, it gets delicate, because while on the one hand, it's supposed to be the ideal, right? You should be completely editorial free of interference. And yet in the real world, that's not always the case. So how did your colleagues respond to it? Like, did you, burn a couch and carry signs around, or
no, we
what
didn't
did you
do that. No, we definitely did not do that. But I mean, we were going through all of the student ethics books and everything of the Indiana Daily Student. We were looking at all the past history. We actually were featured on the New York Times.
Oh, I know. I read. I followed the story because I'm an alum of IU, and certainly read I didn't work on the IDS, but I read it, and I was trying to discern from what I was reading. Okay, what's the tilt on this? Obviously you had the statements from the university, which went one way and justified their actions and everything. But then the question of free press, freedom of speech, the First Amendment, it kind of got subverted a little bit, where they would say, oh, well, there's no encroachment on the First Amendment. And yet when you just stood back and looked, you thought, oh, wait a minute now, I don't know about that. Well, how did you navigate that?
It was definitely a little hard. So, a lot of the professors too, one of my professors, he went to IU, and he was also an editor of the IDS, way back when. And just seeing my professors too, I mean, he came to class almost in tears about this. It definitely affected the IU media community so much. It was definitely hard to navigate just being in that situation. This is the college I go to. Is something that I'm pursuing just going to go away? Is it going to come back? It was definitely hard to navigate. We all just kept pushing forward, reporting on what the community wants to hear from us, and that's exactly what we did, and we persevered.
So among your fellow, journalists, obviously, I would think it was probably universal one point of view. But when you left the media school and you went out, you're wherever on campus, and you're just seeing rank and file students that may or may not have a dog in the fight, or they don't think they do. Did anybody say anything to you like, yeah, you shouldn't have printed that story, or what's the beef? Did you get that too?
Honestly, I did. I mean, they say journalists to not go and read those social media comments, but it's really hard to do that.
Oh, you can't help it. No, you always
you
read
can't
them.
help it. And I mean, just seeing especially IU students, they were so happy this was happening. They wanted us to disappear because they just didn't like the stories and stuff that we were telling to the IU community. But at the end of the day, we're journalists. We're just telling the stories. We're not trying to pick a side or anything like that. But I feel like a lot of the IU community, they do have a problem with that. And the social media comments, those definitely get to you. But, I think it's important also just to kind of know what they want to say, and you can build yourself on from there.
Do you think in some way it gave you a little more backbone to do now what you're doing professionally then?
I would say so. A little backstory. I actually did a story on an IU community member who he was a part of the January 6th protest. And, oh my gosh, when I did that story, I mean, the comments I got, I was getting the most awful comments that you would ever read about just me. I'm a young reporter who's still in college. And, people, they weren't sending me death threats, but they were very upset that I did this story about somebody who, an alumni of IU, was at the January 6th protest. And those comments, they were really hard to read at first, but I felt like it really just built me up as a journalist. You know, that story is one of the most important stories in my career by far. And so, you know, I kind of think back on that. You know, people were upset that I did that story, but at the same time, it was so important and so crucial for the community to know about it, period. But
Was there a point, though, where you kind of doubted yourself? You're like,
mm-hmm.
well, I wonder if I should have said it this way, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not done the story or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which and how did you come to do that story? Was it assigned, or did somebody give you a tip, or how did that happen?
So I was actually a news editor at the time whenever we first got the tip of the story, because this was during his trial. And so we got the tip of the story, and then we did the story and everything. I published it. That was fine. So then about a year later, this is whenever Trump takes presidency, and he pardons all of the January 6th protesters. And so then I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on with the IU alum.
So-and-so, right?
Yeah. And so I did some research. I found him. He fled to Canada. And I got in contact with his lawyers. I was able to speak with him and everything. And my editors, they were good to go. They were ready to roll in the story. And I will say, you know, I did doubt myself a little bit in the beginning doing this story, because I knew it was going to be a harder issue to do, especially for a student newspaper to do. But at the same time, I mean, I had all my editors review the story before it even got published. So I didn't have too much doubt on myself on what was going out there.
Yeah. Who's above the reporter? Usually there's an editor, and then you would have the publisher, obviously, way up. But those people, are they all students, or do you have like faculty that's also looking in, not proofreading, but you know what I mean? Editing stories, looking at them and saying, we better pull this back, or you need to push that more, or is it pretty much all on you?
It pretty much is all students. We have our it's student-ran newspaper, so we have our student editors, then we have our management team, and then we have our editors-in-chief. And the editor-in-chief, they're both students, typically seniors, and they kind of, they do the final review on the stories. But then we do have our student news director, and then we have like our chief editor, who is a professor and practicing.
Yeah. So, but then you went into electronic media, not print. Was that intentional, or do you kind of see the writing on the wall for print journalism, or what do you think?
No, it was not intentional at all. I actually interned at the Indiana Capitol Chronicle last summer, and last summer I really thought print was what exactly I wanted to do. But that next semester, I decided to sign myself up for a broadcast class. I wanted to get out there. Being in Indy, I got to see a lot of the indie markets and see what they were doing up there.
Right.
And I thought maybe that's something I want to try out. So I signed myself up for the class, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah, I've been in electronic journalism my entire career, 40 years, but I still feel, and this probably won't go over well in this building, but there's still a vital need for print because of the context. We just can't do it with television. There just isn't the time or space, as you know, and to read a newspaper, a local newspaper that is locally, sourced, that privilege is going away for so many places, and it's sad. I mean, when I began, I knew a lot of print journalists that worked over at the Courier and the Press, and it's really bleak. And I don't know what the solution is, to revitalize print. Their ad base basically fell away when, with the internet, classified ads went away. What was the funding for the IDS? Because, it's not really a grant. It's not really, what is it? Is it subscriptions? What is it?
So it's mostly, there is a funding, and a lot of it comes from alumni, actually, who support the paper. We do some ads here and there, but, that's mostly where it comes from.
Right, yeah, which is kind of how it has to be, and probably the model going forward if enough people would, pay for journalism. But it seems like, it's kind of the concentration, especially in a national print publication. It's down to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and a few other large dailies, bigger cities, maybe the Chicago Tribune, although it's shrunk considerably. And it's just strange. And yet here on television and in electronic media, we get more and more space now, so to speak, because of more shows and that. And still, you have to crank a story down to about a minute and a half, minute 45. How's that been for you, to have to edit so tightly a complicated story?
It's definitely it's been hard. I will say that for sure. I'm used to writing the longer sentences, all these different graphs throughout the story and, taking the time to be really artistic and unique with it. But my professor this past semester before I graduated, she really honed my skills on that, shortening those words. I don't have to have like according to this person, this person, this person each throughout the
just
story.
So and so said, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I've definitely being here too, it's helped build that skill a lot. But yeah.
There's something though about broadcast, especially because it needs to be short, punchy, direct, concise. Nobody has an attention span either, so you gotta hit them quick and hit them hard with what they need to know, and that's the challenge, of course, we always have faced here. So what's the most exciting thing for you now that you're kind of how long have you been here anyway? Not even a month, right?
A month and a half, almost.
Okay.
Almost a month and a half.
Yeah, I never harass people to be on Inside Look till they've been here at least a month, and then I start in. So where do you see it going? How do you hope to grow?
I feel like I'm already growing here so much as a reporter.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean like, when are you going to shape up? No, I meant, but you're going to be here for a couple, 3 years, so or hopefully more. But so, what are some bucket lists, bingo card things you would like to cover, do?
Especially, I think one of these days I'd love to try out anchoring. That's always, since I got into the broadcast world, I found myself really wanting to do that eventually. But I mean, over the next few years, I just want to hone my skills as a journalist and being able to tell the stories of the community, especially that really impact them. I mean, we cover a lot of areas here, and there's a lot of them that still have unheard voices. So being able to be that person and tell their stories, that's what I'm definitely looking forward over the next few years.
Seems like every anchor I've talked to in my life always laments reporting. They want to go back to reporting, and every reporter wants to be an anchor. I don't know if it's the idea of just, because anchors don't just kind of sit there and it just comes in. I mean, they have to work too, but I guess it's more editorial where they work alongside a producer to kind of craft a show. And does that appeal to you, like producing too and doing, I guess everybody does everything now, right?
Yeah, right. It does. Producing, definitely. I have an eye for it a little bit, but I love the reporting factor of everything. That's why, I do want to be an anchor, but at the same time, I'm going to reminisce, my reporting days so much, just being able to be out in the community, especially.
Yeah. And are you being recognized yet? Like when you go to the store or anything? Has that happened
not
to you?
too much. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's coming. Believe me.
I'm ready. My Facebook comments, I got a lot of Facebook fans and everything, so it's been fun.
Yeah. So you are reading the comments still. I always read them too. And there's always a few boneheads in there and trolls, and you kind of have to just go beyond it. I guess that's the nature of the business, right?
It is, but I'm a local too, so it's always nice to see all these family friends that, I haven't spoken to years. They're commenting on my posts, and I'm like, oh, hey, I haven't spoken to you forever. So it's nice being able to see them, looking out for me and watching me.
That is one perk of working in your hometown, and I enjoyed that too. Still enjoy that, having family and friends around that knew me when, and being up here all these years. It's funny, and a lot of people will come up to me and say, "Oh, I went to high school with you," and I won't, look at them, and then, but they were like 6 years behind me, and I'm thinking, well, that wasn't possible, but glad you came up anyway, So I just appreciate people watching, and I know you will too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Madelyn, thanks so much for racing in here. What do you have to do next now? You have to turn something for the 10, or do you get to go home?
No, I get to go home, actually. I am all good. Yep, my web story's already done and published, so I'm good to go.
You're at peak efficiency then. Wow. Well, then you'll get 2 stories tomorrow, maybe 3.
We'll see.
That's how it works. All right. Madelyn Haynes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you being here on Inside Look with me. If you'd like to listen to all the Inside Look podcasts, you can do that wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our companion podcast. Have you watched Aaron Weeks and Casey Mason on What's the Trend?
I have.
That's a hot number. You need to get on that one. I keep telling all the newcomers, you got to get on that one because they're fun.
Yeah.
I'm the fuddy-duddy. I say that to everybody. But so be sure to check out all of our podcast offerings. With Madelyn Haynes, I'm Jeff Lyons. Thanks for joining.